The DJI Mic 2 and the Rode Wireless Pro are two of the hottest wireless microphone kits on the market. But the issue with these wireless mics is that unless you're holding the transmitter directly to your face, it doesn't sound all that great. And even then, you have this silly thing in your hand, or you have a bulky thing clipped to your shirt collar. The solution for this is a Lav Mic. In an effort to solve this problem, I bought just about every Lav Mic I could find and put them head to head in a test so that you don't have to. Let's get into it. All right, so here's how we're gonna run this test. I tested the microphones in 4 categories: loudness, noise, clarity, and then build/accessories. Each category will be given a rating out of 5 stars to help us determine the winner. At the end, I'll also throw in a bonus microphone that I actually think might sound the best. Let's meet our contestants, shall we? As our control, I clipped the DJI transmitter to my shirt. Then we have DJI's Lav Mic, the PowerDWise, the Purple Panda, the Rode Lavalier Go, the Rode Lavalier 2, the Shure MVL, and the Sony ECM LV1. To first measure loudness, I set the transmitter gain to 0 and then recorded directly onto the transmitter, repeating the same lines with the microphones pinned to the same position on my shirt. This allows for consistency across all microphones, and then we can measure the true peak and loudness levels using the ITU 1770 loudness standard. After running the tests, the PowerDWise comes in at the loudest at -21.2 lufs, followed by the Rode Lav 2 at -22.2 lufs. Down there at the lower end, we have the Shure MVL at -35 lufs and the Sony at -31.4 lufs. But if you anticipate being in a louder environment, having something like the Shure MVL can be good to help eliminate some of that potential background noise. So let's talk about noise. To measure noise, I wanted to run 2 tests. The first is to analyze the frequencies and help determine where any background noise was leaking in. The Rode Lav transmitter on its own and the Shure MVL did the best at preventing noise in general, with the Shure having a little bit more of that noise coming in on the highest of frequencies, which actually makes it a little bit easier to eliminate. On the lower end of the rating scale, the Sony ECM LV1 was far and away the worst. There was some noticeable feedback present. Here, I'll boost the gain and you can have a listen. The other poor performer was the PowerDWise, which had a noise peak of -35.2 decibels. This can often be expected when a microphone has a higher loudness rating. Yes, it picks up your voice well, but it also picks up all that background noise as well. Which actually brings us nicely to signal-to-noise ratio. For those who don't know what signal-to-noise ratio is, imagine you're at a party trying to have a conversation with your friend. The music is blaring, people are laughing, glasses are clinking, there's some dude in the corner talking about his crypto portfolio to anyone who will listen. There's a lot of noise. But amidst all of that noise, you're trying to focus on the signal, your friend's voice. How well you're able to block out that unwanted party noise and just hear your friend would be your signal-to-noise ratio. For a Lav mic, the signal is your voice that you're trying to record, and then the noise is any of that room tone or hissing or unwanted noise around you. And the signal-to-noise ratio is the difference between the 2 audio levels of those 2 things. At the top of the rankings for signal-to-noise ratio is the Shure MVL. By having a low noise floor, you're actually able to eliminate much of that unwanted noise and just isolate your voice. A little bit behind were the Purple Panda and the Rode Lavalier 2, followed by the Rode Lavalier Go and the DJI transmitter on its own. Bringing up the rear again was the Sony ECM LV1, followed perhaps surprisingly by the DJI Lav Mic and then the PowerDWise. Up next, we have each microphone's clarity. This is far and away the most subjective of the categories because how good a microphone sounds can be an own personal taste. In general, I'd say unless you're a crazy person like me sitting in a dark room listening to each of these side by side on repeat until you think your ears are about to bleed, it is somewhat difficult to discern between most of them. Most sound decent, but I'm willing to put myself through immense pain for all of you, which is why you should return the favor by tapping subscribe. In my opinion, the best audio comes from the Rode Lavalier 2. It's nice and crisp, but still has a full, warm sound through the middle frequencies. Interestingly, the Rode Lavalier Go is indistinguishable from the Rode Lavalier 2. The next best comes from the Shure MVL, but I do think that perhaps some folks might not prefer the sound. It's a little bit more sharp and leans into the higher frequencies, so maybe if you're like self-conscious about having a higher pitch voice, this one isn't for you. On the flip side, the PowerDWIs and the DJI Lav Mic are a bit more bass forward, but I think they still sound solid. There's only two that sound outright bad to me. The Sony ECM LV1 is getting picked on here, but that's because you can still hear a bit of that feedback coming through. Then there's the Purple Panda mic. Sadly, it sounds like there was a low pass filter applied to the audio, and it kind of gives you that feeling that you're a little bit underwater. But hey, maybe you're searching for the lost city of Atlantis and you're into that kind of thing. I don't know. Again, these are just my ratings, so let's play them back all back to back, and maybe you can let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. The small pup, not a hole in the sock. Rounding out our grading rubric, we have the build and accessories, like what do you actually get when you buy these microphones? Far and away, the best overall package is the Rode Lavalier 2, but it's also the most expensive, so that's to be expected. The microphone has a great flat design so that the pickup faces away from your shirt, preventing that kind of rubbing sound when you're moving around. It does have the screwing lock mechanism, but that screw is removable, so it'll work with the non-locking ports like on the DJI Mic 2. It also has a really high quality hard case, and it comes with a pop filter, wind filter, and colored indicators if you're using multiple mics. Now, if you don't think you need any of that stuff, it's not necessary, you could just get the Rode Lavalier Go because it sounds basically the same and it's $20 cheaper. It's built well, it's a little bit smaller, but you basically only get the mic and a soft pouch, so we'll give that one 4 stars. Above that is the PowerDWIs. The really cool thing about this one is the magnetic clip. You can either use the clip itself and then kind of use that magnet to rotate it into the ideal position, or if you want to have less stuff kind of pulling on your shirt, you could use the magnets that are included in the DJI Mic 2 and then just attach it behind your shirt. There's extra pop filters, a pouch, and an extra long extension cable if you need to be far away from the transmitter for some reason. The one downside is that it requires a TRS adapter to work with any of these wireless microphones. That is included, but it's just one more thing that risks coming unplugged, which is a bummer. Similar to the PowerDWIs is the Purple Panda. It has pretty much all the same things, an extension, pouch, extra wind filter, but it's missing that fancy magnetic clip. It also sadly requires the TRS adapter, which is included. I also put the DJI Lav Mic in the middle of the rankings here. You basically get no accessories, just the microphone, but I really like that the shirt clip has a rotation, so it helps you better position the microphone on different shirt types. At the bottom of the rankings is, again, the Sony. Sony, I'm sorry, you usually make really good microphones. This just isn't one of them. You get no accessories, the mic itself is really big and hard to hide, and I'm just not a fan of the design. Now, I mentioned earlier that the Shure MVL had one huge problem. The build of this thing is great and the cable is super sturdy, but like some of the others, it requires that TRS adapter to work with these wireless mics. Unlike the others, none is included, so you need to buy that separately. Huge bummer because it performs really well in just about every other category, but the fact that it doesn't work out of the box is a big miss. I will link to a few TRS adapters down in the description if you do want to go this route though. All right, before we get to the total of all the scores, I mentioned there's a secret entry that actually sounds really great. That is the Movo MVM 101. So this one plugs directly into the transmitter and then you'll need to hold it up to your mouth like your Bob Barker. Is it silly? Absolutely, but it's much better than holding up the transmitter like a goon. Plus, I think it really sounds nice and rich and full, and you can get much closer to your audio source. It doesn't come with any accessories, like it literally just comes in an Amazon bag as is, and it can be finicky to plug into the DJI Mic transmitter because it has one of the locking ports, so you want to double check to make sure that it's actually transmitting before you hit record. The best part is, the price is right. Sorry, I had to. It is the cheapest of the bunch at just $19.95, but I'm pretty sure it is discontinued, so you may have some trouble finding it. All right, totaling up all of our scores, we have the Rode Wireless 2 as our winner, followed by the Shure MVL, and then the Purple Panda. Coming just off the podium, we have the PowerDWise and the Rode Lavalier Go, and then the DJI transmitter by itself with the DJI Lav Mic and the Sony ECM LV1 bringing up the rear. I think if it were me, I would probably buy one Rode Lavalier 2 and then a second Rode Lavalier Go. That way I can use the Rode Lavalier 2 as my primary mic and then have the Go as my backup for the second transmitter, since it sounds basically the same, and that way you can save a couple of bucks. I also do really like the performance of the Shure. So if you're okay getting the adapter, I think you will be pretty happy with that one. If you're on a tighter budget, I'd probably go with the PowerDWise over the Purple Panda, because even though the Purple Panda scores slightly better overall, it just doesn't sound that great to me. If you found this video helpful, or if I saved you some time or money in having to test these out yourself, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe. I make new videos like this every week, and I got some really good ones coming up in the pipeline here. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace.